Today, we're going to be talking about 3 ways we see buyers sabotaging their ability to buy a home. And I know it sounds so brutal to say that, but it's true. You could be the one sabotaging yourself. We see people do it all the time in other parts of life, like me with food. I always want to be in shape, but I love donuts. I am sabotaging, okay? And we see people do this with housing. So today I'm going to give you the 3 big ways we see people self-sabotage, and then you guys can determine if you are doing that to yourself, okay? So number 1, unrealistic expectations. So it's really important. Like I always say, you should get pre-approved before you start shopping, because it's really hard to go down in price once you've seen more expensive stuff. Like, look, is a $5 million house nicer than a $1 million house? Yeah, it's $5 million. Is a $400,000 house gonna be nicer than a $200,000 house? Once again, that $400,000 house may have a pool, the $200,000 may not. So you don't wanna end up in a position where you have been dreaming of homes that are totally outside of your price range. People will refer to this as caviar taste with a beer budget, which I don't really like that saying. I think beer is delicious. I think caviar is delicious. But that's the thing. If you have completely unrealistic expectations for your price range, you will never find a home. It's that simple. If you're in a price range where generally you're going to get a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, expecting a 5-bedroom with 4 baths is not realistic. So having unrealistic expectations is one of the major ways we see buyers self-sabotaging. So definitely, if you're like, I've been looking for 2 years and I can't find anything, and you're working with a good real estate agent and you're pre-approved and you qualify, check in with yourself and write down what you're looking for, and then do a quick search. Is that generally available at that price range, or is what you're looking at a higher price range, okay? It's a brutal exercise, but it's worth doing, because look, no one wants to go home shopping for 2 years. It's misery. And if you do want to go home shopping for 2 years, you're not really home shopping. That's a hobby. Okay, that's not an active pursuit to buy a house. At that point, it becomes a hobby, kind of like taxes with losses. Okay, so number 1. Number 2, during the process, we'll see people sabotage in 2 ways with the loan process. Number 1, they lie. Do not lie to your lender. If you lie to your lender, you are sabotaging your ability to buy a house, because stuff can come up that will bite you. So that's number 1. Number 2 is not being responsive. You're in contract to buy a house. You want to buy this house. We need stuff in order to get you that house, and you're not responding. That is self-sabotage. You're trying to get to your house, but are you really, if you're not responding to the people who are helping you get there? Yeah, we need a therapist to talk about that one. But there is a level of self-sabotage. We see it with insurance quote, homeowners insurance quotes. I always tell everyone, day 1, you guys need to get a quote, get a quote, get a quote, get a quote. And what we'll see is, like most buyers, if they really want to buy, they get that quote. They do what they're supposed to do. They do their homework because they want to get to the finish line. If a buyer's not really committed, or they're self-sabotaging, we'll see it get, oh, I'm busy, I'm this, I'm that, I'm this. Guys, buying a house, when you're in that process, that should be the most important thing. Now look, if you have a sick child or something like that, of course that's more important. But day-to-day life, right? Like, oh, I have work. That's great. You're buying a house. Like, we all have jobs, we get it. But you're buying a house, and to get to your finish line, you need this stuff. So ask yourself, is the lender annoying, or are you self-sabotaging? Is there something about this house you don't like? Are you not necessarily ready for the commitment? Is this something that your spouse wanted and you didn't? Why are you not being responsive? Because often it's not because of work, or it's not because the lender's annoying. It's because there's something else at play. Okay, so number 1, unrealistic expectations. Number 2 is, not responding to the people who need your response in order to get you to the finish line. Number 3, emotional Jekyll and Hyde. Yes, okay. So buying a house can bring out a lot of emotions. It can bring it out during the shopping period. It can bring it out during the process. And the thing is that often becoming overly emotional about the transaction sabotages it. right? Suddenly everyone's the enemy. The seller looked at you wrong. The lender didn't call you back quick enough. Your real estate agent called you back after dinner instead of during dinner. You know, it's this heightened level of emotion that's not realistic, guys. Like and it's a form of self-sabotage. It's a subconscious way that people are afraid of the finish line. So instead of working to get to the finish line, everyone else is the enemy, okay? And we don't see a lot of that, but we do see a lot of emotions come into play. I have seen people cancel on their dream homes because the seller parked in the driveway behind them and didn't move their car quick enough. Like just stupid stuff you could never think of. Now, how do people feel about this years later? It depends. If they haven't found a house, sometimes they go, kind of wish we'd got in that house, right? So it's very easy to get emotional during the transaction. It's very easy. Like guys, when I sell or buy a house, I have to check in with myself constantly and go, okay, is this real or is this emotional? And why am I being emotional? What am I really worried about? And am I really mad my lender called me after dinner instead of during dinner? I don't think any of us would really care about that. Same with the realtor, right? We don't really care about that. So what's really upsetting us? And really drill into that instead of just having this behavior that's wild and ultimately self-sabotaging. That's the thing. When emotions get into these real estate transactions, it gets real ugly real quick. And as a lender, I will always do my best to try to talk you guys down, but at some point, we can't even do it, right? Because you're not just self-sabotaging yourself, you're also harming us. So really important to think through this stuff. You know, when you're looking at buying a house, are you not able to find a house? Is it because you don't have a good real estate agent? Definitely can be a thing. Or is it because when you really look at the data, everything that you want is $100,000 more, okay? And look, if it's $100,000 more, the question is, A, do you qualify for that? B, is there something with your job where you could be making more income, you know, because then it might be worth waiting to get to what you want. Or if you're like, no, Jen, my job's gonna be where it is, this is my price range, well then you need to get that list to be a little bit more realistic with what the price range is, okay? And then the second one was, you know, the people who are helping you to get to the finish line, if you're not responding to them, why, right? It's their job to get you to the finish line. If you're not responding to them, you're sabotaging yourself getting there. And 3, out of check emotions that harm both yourself and everyone in the process. Because that's the thing, if you think everyone's the enemy, right, you're never gonna get to the finish line. So really important that you guys check in with yourselves during the home buying process. Have you sabotaged yourself? Are you like, Jen, I have done one of these, or did you do it in a different way? Right? There's lots of ways to self-sabotage. So fill in, let me know what you guys think. I just thought it was important to share this because I do see this stuff sometimes. And you know, as a lender, it's tough because we don't want to ever offend anyone, but you also don't want people going in these circles of not getting to the finish line, right? And that's like, I always think of like, I'm the coach, right? And I know how to get you to the finish line. And sometimes I see people running in circles instead of running around the track, right? And we want to direct you to get around that track, but we have to be very cautious as well because we don't know why you're doing that. You know, I don't know why you're not getting me docs. Like, what's the real reason? So it's really good for you guys to take a step back. Ask yourself, are you running in circles instead of to the finish line? And if so, what's the real reason? Because I bet you it's not what you think. Thanks for